We're joined in our studio by someone whose name may be very familiar to you, Brad O'Leary. He's the best-selling author of 15 books, including The Audacity of Deceit, Barack Obama's War on American Values. He has a 16th book coming out soon with best-selling author Jerome Corsi called How Obama Can Be Defeated in 2012. Mr. O'Leary is the executive producer of many television specials and documentaries. He was the host of a national radio talk show for 10 years that had an audience of 2 million. He's raised over $2 billion for presidents, senators, congressmen, and conservative causes. He's the publisher of the O'Leary Report. Welcome to Newsmax, Brad.
Delighted to be here today.
You've raised $2 billion for candidates and conservative causes. That's a huge amount of money. How do you go about doing that?
Well, you got to age well. I'm 75, so I've been around for a long time doing it. You can't get it all at one time, but you've got to reach out to people or learn how to reach out to people who believe as your candidates do.
We have a very important presidential election coming up. Not to say they're all not important, but this one in particular, particularly because of the change of direction in America that we've seen. Who are you keeping your eye on as a solid conservative with a good chance of being elected?
Well, I think one of the problems we have today is that there are a lot of solid conservatives who are running. This is probably the first presidential election in my lifetime where Republicans with a year to go or a year and a half to go haven't firmed into the one or two choices, but that may wind up as the ones. I think it's going to take a little bit longer for the system to work its way out than it has in the past.
Do you see any sleeper candidates emerging, perhaps?
I believe that the American public is not looking at who the candidates are because none of them are flashingly politically famous as we've had in other elections. So I think it's going to be a little bit slower for people to make up their mind.
Okay, very briefly, we'd ask you to comment on these possible presidential contenders, just a brief comment on all of them from top of your mind. Mitt Romney?
He's been tested by the American public, and he's put a good organization together, but he hasn't quite learned the terms that are going to sell his vision yet, and perhaps he's still shaping it.
And what exactly, precisely what do you mean?
Well, it's like if you ask people what Mitt Romney stands for, they'll tell you a lot of things about a lot of issues, but that answer like Obama's looking for right now, like what are we up to in Libya? What's the final answer? I don't see Romney or many of the other candidates being able to tell us that.
Mike Huckabee?
Mike Huckabee, I thought when he went on television for his radio show and television show, he was making a mistake, but he has a certain warmth to him that has certainly got through to his audience, and I think should he run, will get through to America.
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin is the one thing that comes out of everything she's done so far is the fact that she loves her family so much and she owes so much to them. And I think if you run for president, it's very, very difficult, very hard, and she's making it easier for her to make those self-sacrifices she'll have to make if she runs.
Tim Pawlenty.
Tim Pawlenty has started very slow, but he's picked up some momentum as time has gone on. And somebody once told me that this election may be the last candidate standing on the Republican side, and certainly he so far has less negatives than some of the other candidates do, so he could be the last guy standing.
Haley Barbour.
Haley is a wonderful person. He's been successful at everything he's done. He's just getting started. It's going to be a long time before people vote, but the more you see Haley, the more you like him.
Rick Santorum.
Rick Santorum has been silent politically for the last probably 4 years beyond that, so he's just allowing himself to get renowned by the American public.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, well, I have a hard time believing that someone as successful as Donald Trump is going to take the time necessary to run for president. He certainly would have been the perfect man to put in charge of Katrina and rebuilding that part of the country after it happened. And he'd be the perfect man for us to send to Japan. I think he's a risk taker and someone who can get things done.
All right, in your book, The Audacity of Deceit, you say Obama's goal is to replace the Judeo-Christian values that gave birth to the land of the free with failed radical leftist beliefs. Obama professes to be a Christian. Now, where is the disconnect here in your opinion?
Well, I don't think there's a disconnect when you say that anyone professes to be a Christian. You have to ask the question, what kind of Christian? As far as Obama is concerned, he selected a religion to belong to right at the same time he was choosing to run for office. And he chose a church that was in the center of the political district that he wanted to run from and was the most powerful Christian church in that district. I'm not sure that he picked a Christian belief and then found a church that matched that Christian belief. He picked instead a powerful church and accepted that belief. And I have a chapter in that book on black Christian theology. I guess the center part of it, of that type of Christian philosophy, is that he believes in the redistribution of wealth in America. That is, making everyone equal, taking away wealth from those who have it and giving that wealth to people who don't have it. I'm not a Christian who believes in redistribution of wealth.
You also say Obama plans to appoint activist judges to rewrite the Constitution and eviscerate the values and freedoms that we all hold dear. Now, are Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan examples of what you mean?
Total examples. I mean, his desire, right now when the Supreme Court says whether third-term abortions are all right, the Boy Scouts can make their own rules, business has substantially more freedom than the state wants to give business, or that you can own and use a gun. Most of the votes are usually 5-4 in favor of the conservative viewpoint. If he appoints one more judge to replace one of those conservative judges, then the whole history of the court in the last few years is going to switch to a court that's 5-4 liberal.
Obama claims to be a supporter of private gun ownership, yet he called for new gun control measures after the mass shooting in Tucson, Arizona. Which is the real Obama on this issue?
Well, there's no, I mean, that's not even a question. Obama believes that certain restrictions on your owning a gun can be put in place by the state. And those restrictions, according to his support of Bloomberg and what Bloomberg for, could mean that if you've been in a divorce, you might not qualify to own a gun. Or if you've had too many speeding tickets, you may not qualify. Or if we find that you owe too much money and have been a bad debt on many occasions, you don't qualify. So he's for those people that qualify owning a gun, but Bloomberg and the rest of the anti-gunners have so many things that you would have to be in order for them to approve that you're the right kind of person to own a gun, that hardly anyone in America would be able to own a gun.
Bloomberg, a reference to New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, I take it. Okay. Now, are we seeing a repeat of the 90s where Bill Clinton's administration took on the NRA?
I think that in his heart, he'd love to take on the NRA. Will the Democratic Party, who suffered such a calamity in that election, will they have the guts to take on the NRA, or will they be hypocrites all the way through this election? I think they'll choose to be hypocrites.
How can Obama be beaten? What's the best way?
To be beaten? You have to talk to the people about what he really believes. And he's laid out the groundwork for you of what he believes. He is truthful. You just have to be willing to look at the statements he's made.
Do you think any Republican will really take the gloves off on Obama or have a campaign like John McCain where he really didn't go after Obama?
No, I think all of the Republicans we're talking about now will take the gloves off. They will not let Obama get by with the lies that he got by in the last campaign.
We know your book's not out until April, but can you give us a little insight into what the main theme of it is and anything else you'd like to add to it?
The theme of it, I did this with Jerome because Jerome got his PhD at Harvard in polling. So if there were ever to pick someone who could read the political tea leaves or the polling tea leaves, he sees the same things that I see. You cannot, you're not going to be able to fight this election and win unless you have the support of the NRA. And that's a truism that we could have started out with. But you're also going to have the support of groups like the Tea Party. And they're not going away. They didn't come to the table, elect so many people, especially electing 700 new state representatives, and then fade into the darkness of politics. They're going to have more time to organize, more time to turn people out, and they're going to get you focusing on the issues. And as far as the religious conservatives are concerned, they weren't out in massive numbers in the last election, but they're there, and anyone who thinks we solved gay marriage, we solved many other issues that would turn people out, doesn't know anything about America, because ever since the Civil War and beyond, churches have played an important part in turning out their people to vote in elections.
Okay, religious conservatives you mentioned and Tea Party members. Do you expect them to come out in droves in the next election, presidential election? You think it'd be a big turnout in those demographic groups? Okay. All right, Brad O'Leary, thanks so much. People can find out more about you at o'learyreport.com, his website, and also his new book with Jerome Corsi will be out soon. Check Amazon to order it. And thank you so much, sir, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.